I don't know what it is about the Astros, but man, when anything, and I mean when the slightest thing seems to go in their favor, it just causes a huge uproar. Yes, when bad calls happen, it tends to get attention no matter the team, no matter the situation. But it definitely doesn't end up causing a massive call out for robotic umpires throughout the entire internet right when it happens. To start off, so there's absolutely no confusion, I am 100% in favor of the AI calling strikes and balls. 100% in favor. Mainly because baseball seems to be one of the only sports that just doesn't want to advance as technology gets better. I mean, dude, the MLB just recently started using their replay system for challenges. That technology has literally been around forever. So, I mean, what's keeping us from getting this consistent strike zone that we all want? We want strikes to be strikes and balls to be balls. The thing that's keeping us away from getting what we want is the human element. You know, the emotional umpire human element to it that shrinks strike zones for pitchers and enlarges strike zones for batters whenever they so think fits. Why the hell would you want that? Let me preface everything that I'm about to say, just, so there's no confusion, because people love taking what you say and hearing whatever they want to, and, they tend to not analyze things too well. No, not every umpire is bad. No, not every umpire is emotional, and no, not every umpire thinks he is a godsend to the MLB. But with that being said, there are umpires who are emotional, there are umpires who are just bad, and there are umpires that think they are the godsend to the baseball audience. And those are the umpires that make things bad for baseball, especially when it's in a pivotal game in the World Series. And I'm going to be honest, I don't think the entire problem is because of human umpires and their bad calls. I think what's bad about it is that they make bad calls, they know they just made a bad call, and then they want to fix it. What I find funny is that umpires will make these bad calls and then argue in favor of their bad calls, and like I said, fix it. So why would you argue that your bad call was in fact a good call if you are then going to go back on your word and give another bad call just to fix what you did previously? This is what the human element is. It completely takes away consistency. Another human element to the human umpire, as I said before, is the altering of the strike zone itself for players that you don't fancy so much because they decided to show you up one time. Let me paint you a scenario. The umpire is confronted by a batter back in a game in July. And let's say that umpire is now working a game in October. And just so happens that the batter that confronted him back in July is now up at the plate. Well, now we have the umpire who got confronted back in July, and we have the batter who did the confronting. So what's going to happen is that strike zone that was in July is now going to become way bigger. So the strike zone was like this, and now it's like this. So in this scenario, the umpire is basically taking advantage of his power and completely ruining the batter's life. Yeah, try to have fun hitting on a strike zone that is the size of the Pacific Ocean. These human elements that people want to hold on to so tightly, they're just not good for the game. And I'm going to be honest, they will not be missed. Nobody is going to look back 20 years from now and be like, damn dude, you remember that missed call? Oh, I miss those days. But yes, I do believe that the electronic strike zone is going to make its way into the MLB sometime in the near future. So, what will the MLB look like with an AI-operated strike zone? Well, we have to look no further than an independent league called the Atlantic League. Back in July, the first pitch on an electronic strike zone was made. The MLB had signed a deal requesting the implementation of some new rules to this league, the Atlantic League, and they have been put in place just this year, with one of those rules being the electronic strike zone. And don't worry, for those of you who want a human instead of a full-blown cyborg behind the plate, you have no worries. What happens is the pitch is made, the computer sees where the ball went over the plate, it then relays whether it's a strike or a ball to the umpire's earpiece, who then makes the call. And then if you're wondering how long that process will take, will it make the games longer? No, it will not. It takes like an amount of 6 seconds from when the pitch is made to the call to make the call. That's releasing the ball, going over the plate, calling strike. 6 seconds at most. Now obviously if there are some technical difficulties it will last longer, but hopefully the MLB would be smart enough to not use this technology until it is pretty much flawless. And I'm pretty confident that the MLB would not rush a piece of technology that might be inconsistent. But not only will an electronic strike zone be consistent and just as fast, we have to look at another thing. How are batters going to adapt to this new strike zone? Whether you want to believe it or not, batters are going to have to take a much different approach, and I'm pretty sure pitchers will too. The pitchers will have to become more comfortable throwing in places that they may have not previously thrown because they thought it would have been a ball, and batters have to adjust their eye to account for what the computer is about to call on you. The strikes and balls that humans are used to seeing will be no longer. For instance, human umpires are heavily influenced by where the catcher places the ball after it's caught. And let's just be completely honest here, more often than not, the umpire's not making the strike or the ball call based on where the ball crossed over the plate, which is what you should do, but that does not happen. What normally happens is the pitch crosses over the plate into the catcher's glove, and where that catcher's glove is normally determines what's going to be called. With an electronic strike zone, it doesn't matter where the ball ends up after it's crossed the plate, it will literally be irrelevant. It is entirely possible for a curveball to clip the bottom portion of the strike zone and then end up in the dirt. And in this scenario, with a human umpire, that pitch is more than likely going to be called a ball based on the fact that it hit the dirt, regardless if it clipped the strike zone or not. But with an electronic strike zone, it will be able to tell if that ball clipped the strike zone and then hit the dirt. And at that point, it is irrelevant that that ball went into the dirt, because guess what? It crossed the plate in the strike zone, which is exactly what the electronic strike zone will tell you. Not only that, it has been noted that the TrackMan, which is the name for the electronic strike zone, has been seen to call pitches that are high as strikes. Now that doesn't mean they're out of the strike zone, that just means from the umpire's point of view, it would appear to be a high pitch when it is not. So here you have pitches that can clip the strike zone where batters will probably think it's a ball, but technology tells you otherwise. You might think it's just as simple as installing the TrackMan and having all of these consistent pitches, but it's just not that easy. Frank Viola Jr., a coach in the Atlantic League, was tossed. Yes, you heard me right. He was ejected in the first inning of a game that was being called by the TrackMan. He tried to argue with an AI. Here's an instance where we can see years of inconsistent calls make a manager completely lose his shit. The pitch that was being argued was up high. It was above the strike zone. But if you look at it, the ball obviously takes a dip towards, the catcher's glove. So strike zone, ball does this, boom, boom. It gets caught probably right on the strike zone top layer, but it crossed over the plate above the strike zone. So in reality, if the TrackMan wasn't even in this scenario, guess what? That pitch is likely to be called a strike. But because the 3D technology of the TrackMan was able to see that the ball crossed over the strike zone instead of through it, it is a ball. And the manager did not want to hear it. Now, Frank seemed to have a problem understanding what was being called. He went on Twitter and he basically said, "We demand to know if we are using the human strike zone or the electronic strike zone." Now, I don't know about you, but if my league just passed a rule saying that all of their games would be using an electronic strike zone, I think it's safe to say that the strike zone being used is in fact electronic. So I am not entirely sure where the confusion was on that one. And for my last note, I think an electronic strike zone can be great for the future. It will be a hell of a lot more consistent, and not only that, it will give you a good reading on what is and isn't a strike or a ball. However, batters and pitchers will definitely have to retrain their eye, and that could be a big leap to hurdle. Because as we can see with electronic strike zones, it doesn't matter where the ball is after it's past the plate. The only thing that matters is where it was when it crossed the plate. But yeah, that's my last note. Let me know what your opinions are on robotic umpires and the outcry for them immediately.